Hey everyone, this is the Blind Ninja. Sorry about that long hiatus there. My work and everything got all janked up, and so I just had no time to do anything other than work, and I was volunteering outside of work, and that basically took all my time. But I am back. My life has now been unjanked. And so I want to get back into game dev. And so I've been taking Code Monkey's C Sharp course that he's got out. And so I've been doing that. I feel like I've been learning things. So hopefully, when I get done doing at least the intermediate part of it, I'll go do a few like intermediate tutorials, like the Pokemon tutorial I did before. I want to retry that farming sim tutorial. I want to do Code Monkey's Kitchen Chaos game he had out that, he shows you how to make that game. I want to do those tutorials and see how much I actually learned. But another thing I need to get into is I am still working on that virtual pet game. I do want to finish that. But with that game, I mean, considering how much I've done in that game, I basically have a game. I don't have like a fail condition if you somehow kill your pet. I don't have that in the game yet. I want to make like my very first cutscene, like opening cutscene for the game. Um, I want to add, if I can, because I know I did it with the Brick Breaker game where I had like a little naming system. I want to try and see if I can do that. I'm trying to not like overload myself with feature creep because I know that's a thing. But because I'm so far in development with that game, I'm kind of at the point where I was trying to figure out what type of art I want to have with that game. And since I've been thinking of monster taming quite a lot lately, I was thinking like, I really like the, old school Pokemon art that they had, from like Red and Blue, that watercolor stuff. And there were a couple games that I saw on Steam. I think one of them was called like Cozy Grove, and that had a beautiful watercolor style. And that got me, I was like, ooh, I really like that. And then there's another game, I think it's called Calico. I think that's all it's called. And it's watercolor, but it's like watercolor in 3D. And that got me thinking of a video that I saw a while back called something like the prettiest Pokemon game that doesn't exist or something like that. And it's basically like if someone took the old school Pokemon design and made it in 3D. So like that, it was like kind of that watercolor type style with all the Pokemon and everything. It looks really cool. Probably not gonna be able to do anything 3D like that just because I booted up my Carrera, my 3D program, and I tried doing like UV wrapping and all that stuff or UV mapping, whatever it's called. And yeah, I reminded myself, well, I'm probably never gonna be able to do 3D because of the fucking UV wrapping. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get better at it, but I kind of doubt it. That in itself is a skill. But I am starting to learn how to draw because I do want to maybe try this watercolor thing and see what I can do with it. Maybe I will do one of those 2.5D games where like the world itself is 3D, like the ground is 3D, but all the assets are 2D or some of the assets are 2D or however that goes. I may want to do that. We'll see. I've got too many ideas going on. I'm not sure if they're all really like cohesive. So we'll find out. But I just kind of want to show my little stuff that I've been trying to work on. And I'm still new to this. I only started like a couple weeks ago or something like that. So this was the very, very first thing that I did. I bought one of those screenless tablets that I can use to draw on. And it was just recommended because it was cheap and you could use it to draw pretty much immediately. You're not staring down at the screen or anything like that. And some people said it was hard to start with because you're not looking at the screen, but for me personally, I have no problem doing it. I guess to me it just seems like a mouse. I mean, we use mice all the time and we never, stare at our hand to look at the screen when we move the mouse around. So to me, it just kind of works like that. But this was the very, very first thing I did. I used my Corel painter that I've got. And if you can't tell what this is supposed to be, I don't blame you. It's supposed to be a like a mountainy, grassy field with bushes in the foreground, there's some trees in the foreground. And this is all like me messing with the watercolor, and I had no idea what I was doing. It looks terrible. But I was like, well, I mean, I made a thing. It looks kind of cool, I guess, in a terrible sort of way. I mean, I like how the colors, bleed into each other like this. I don't know, I kind of like that sort of look. And so after this monstrosity, I decided to go and make a Bulbasaur. Because Pokemon, especially beginner Pokemon, are not just good for beginner trainers, they're good for beginner artists, I guess. And so, still using those same watercolor things I did in the last one, I traced this, original Gen 1 Bulbasaur. And I had a lot of fun making this. And my lines are all janky and all that stuff. Even though I traced it the best I could, my lines are all janky and shit. Apparently, my painter has like a smoothing thing, so to make it less jank. But yeah, so I made this Bulbasaur, but I do like how it turned out. I think it's kind of neat. So I'm wondering if I do wind up making some kind of Monster Tamer game, if I could at least do something in this watercolor style. I'm not sure. I personally like it, but I don't know if it really would translate to a 3D, not 3D, but like if it would translate to an actual like Monster Tamer game in the game world. Like this is easy enough to put in a, Pokemon book, like I have. But um seeing this in an actual world may not be as cohesive. I'm not sure. But that was like the first thing I drew. And then I decided to draw a Squirtle. Squirtle was my very, very first Pokemon ever, and I actually kind of chose it at random. So I was trying to hone in on the watercolor bit so it wasn't as just like free form flowing everywhere. And so I do kind of like this. I I'm working on like the blending and the colors, and I kind of like how the eyes turned out. Um, and my screen, just so you know, is like really, really dark. I have the brightness and the contrast turned all the way down. And to me, the Squirtle still looks pretty light, so I can only imagine what looks on everyone else's screen. But yeah, I mean, I think my tracing got better, if nothing else. My lines, well, this, I think I had the smoothing turned on here. And if that's mostly the case, and you can see how, much better it got. So I am still pretty happy with this. I thought that was pretty cool. And so I decided to draw one of my own personal designs. Let's see, bring it up. And so I call this Katif. It's basically, I kind of traced a picture of an actual lion cub. And so this is what it looks like. So it's kind of like a gray baby cat. And at the end of its tail, it's got a rosebud. And on its head, it's got kind of like where the ears would be, it's got two rosebuds. It's got green eyes, a little pink cat nose, and on the front, kind of on its neck in the front, there's a single rose petal. And so the idea is this would grow to kind of like a nice sleek cat with a row of rose petals around its neck. I think the rose on its tail and its ears would bloom, and then in its third form, it would basically grow into like a rose lion. So that's the kind of general idea of what this would do. Don't know if I'll actually implement, and these are some like really old designs I made. So I don't know if I'll ever actually implement these designs, but I think it turned out okay. And then I showed this to my friend, and she was like, I can kind of teach you how to draw. I mean, I did go to school for that. And I went, okay. And so one thing she told me to do was she goes, make lots and lots and lots of circles. And so that's kind of what I started doing. Here's my very first attempt. And she just said to like put points on the thing and draw a line to the points and see how straight you can get, make sure you can hit the point and all that stuff. And then she said to make varying widths between the lines so that you can make different sizes of circles. She said working on ovals is also a good idea. And so my first attempt at drawing circles. So, did some of that, and then drew some more circles. And then this is my second attempt, and at the bottom there, this is after I had a chat with her about like drawing tips and stuff. And she said it was non negotiable that you have to see the object in 3D. Otherwise, you're not going to draw for shit. And so, for my second attempt, I decided to try and draw some shapes in 3D. I mean, just like very, very simple, like Here's a sphere, cube, kind of like the round, the cone, the round triangle, sphere, cube, and I put like a little shadow on one of them, like on one side, trying to practice shadows. She was like, "Yeah, don't worry about shadows. That is too advanced for you right now." I'm like, "Okay," but she did say to practice seeing objects in 3D. So for my next attempt, I decided to. She also recommended making the shapes bigger too. So I made them much bigger, and I also worked on making just 3D. And she said to use guidelines to kind of help see the shape in 3D. So I tried doing that. I added lines, and she said that she can kind of see where my perspective isn't quite right. So I'm gonna probably have to talk with her about like how my perspective is janky. So I did that, and then I was practicing just some more circles. This is after like a couple days of practicing circles. She did say to practice ovals as well. And I don't think I'm doing very well with the ovals. I'm not exactly sure, like, what kind of ovals necessarily. Like, should I just draw anime eyes constantly? I mean, maybe. But yeah, so I try to draw ovals. I don't think they're very good. I think I'm getting a little better at circles. It's kind of hard to tell. The involuntary eye movement makes drawing straight lines a bitch. And so after getting tired of drawing circles for a while, I decided to make my little Pidgey here. And again, still kind of trying to figure out how I want the watercolors to look. And I'm not too, I think I'm actually pretty happy with this one. I like how it turned out. I mean, I think was it, uh, the actual, like, artist who did the original watercolors for Pokemon, I think he did it with real watercolor. So it's going to look different than what mine's going to look. But I still think it looks pretty good. I don't think it looks too bad. So, yeah, I think this one turned out pretty well. And then I went back to drawing more circles and things. And so I was also some more circles, trying to again get my lines to be as straight as possible, but that's extremely difficult. I don't know if it's just because of the eye movement or just because of me lack of drawing skill. But I also whipped out my 3D program to try and use as reference to see objects in 3D. So I try to get the cube, and I've been watching some like art tutorials and recommendations and things like that. And they kind of basically said what my friend said to you have to see objects in 3D. One recommended just making a whole bunch of boxes in basically every sort of perspective that you can, and just make a lot of those. And so that's kind of what I started to do is I started making little cubes. And I whipped up my 3D program to try and see the cube in different perspectives. And I put like little red dots and lines in some places to try and help me to make the box right and things like that. And I put a little sad face here because I made this cube, but it didn't look at all really like how it did in the program. So I tried again. And this looks better. I don't think it looks exactly like it did in the program, but it definitely looks better. So, and then also what I did before that, I forgot. Before I did that one, another thing one of the uh, tutorials recommended I do was to look at real objects and then put like lines on them to make it look 3D. And so I basically tried to put lines on this lizard as if I was making it into a 3D model. And I don't have a whole lot of experience with 3D modeling, but I kinda can see how it would look as a 3D model, I think. So, um, I don't think I did too bad with this. I mean, I could have added like another line under the armpit here, but otherwise, I think I had like the general shape down okay. So, yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to learn. It's a lot to learn, kind of at one time, where I'm trying to learn 3D, or I'm trying to learn programming, and then I'm trying to also learn art at the same time. Um, I have zero, art experience. At least I have some programming experience, but I am just trying to get better at it. So that's just kind of where I'm at now. I've got too many ideas going on in my head. I need to focus on getting certain things done. So the plan is basically to finish the Code Monkey tutorial at least through intermediate, do some more like intermediate actual tutorials, like the farming sim game, do the Pokemon tutorial, do the kitchen chaos. I might go through the Unity learning course again because that was really helpful when I first did that. And then at some point, my goal this year is to basically 100% finish the virtual pet game. That's my goal for this year, is to finish that and then actually publish that game as an official commercial game. And then after that, my plan had been to make like a little platformer because everyone and their grandmother can make a platformer. There's like a million platformer tutorials out there. Making a blind accessible platformer actually shouldn't be too difficult, I don't think. One of my friends has tested some of my my blind accessible platformers before, and so it actually shouldn't be too bad. Whether I'll do it in 2D or 3D has yet to be seen. I'll figure it out. But yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at. Kind of a random video, but I'm still alive, just so you know. So, hope you have a good one. See you later.